Hello and welcome to another edition of Bentley Tech EDU, where today we'll be covering fonts. I'm going to start off by just showing you how fonts are created and some of the things that you need in order to make fonts work. I always recommend that all students, anybody, make sure that they have the character window open. This gives you full flexibility and allows you to see all of the various font features that are available. Your font tool is right there. It is clickable. And if you click into this area, you'll see lorem ipsum, which is meaningless, but let's just type in my name, James Bentley, Bentley. You can see that the font itself at this point is fairly small. What I like to do is do a Control A and immediately bump the font up to something more manageable. What I like to do is hit backspace and then enter. That way I know that there's not a space that's unwanted in this area. Justification of fonts can work like this. By hitting a Control A, you can justify to the left, to the center, or to the right. But don't be surprised if the font should jump away and fly away in unexpected ways. Let's color the font. Here's James. Let's try making it red. I click the red and now it's red. If I were to go down to my last name, Bentley, I could make it obvious blue color. Now I have my name in very simple colors. Let's work on changing fonts. These colors will not be what I end up with at the very end. I'm going to adjust the fonts to be something a little bit more interesting. First, let's go to Arial Black. And I'm going to show you a fun thing. In the character window, if you hit the double T, everything becomes capitalized. And it gives you an interesting look. I'm going to keep the font colors exactly the same. What I'm going to do with my first name, James, is I'm going to uncapitalize first letter by hitting J. What I would like to do is spread the letters out. Let's give it a try. What I'm going to do is adjust the spacing on my letter values. VA has an arrow on it. What this does is it'll adjust to 200. But you know, maybe you want to go a little bit more. Let's try 400. I use the keyboard, I type that in, and that looks pretty good. I'm actually going to go a little bit more. Let's see what 500 does. Now that is looking interesting. Okay, so I put a nice gap in between my letters. What would happen if I tried to stretch my last name to be tall by 150? Now I'm just guessing. Well, that's a little bit too big. Let's jump down to maybe 130. Now that is looking pretty good. I think I can live with this. So what do I have? James is spaced out with quite a bit of spacing in between the letters at a value of 500. My last name, Bentley, is stretched at 130 in terms of its stretch value. What I'm going to do next is something very simple. I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to just make a box, a very, very simple box. I'm going to fill it with color. Let's make it a soft blue color. Now what I'm going to do is attempt to create the name in a graphical style. I click the white. So my James is now white. And I'm going to go up to my swatches, get a nice green. And just like that, my name is now James Bentley. Control D, deselect, white font for my first name spread out, and Bentley all uppercase and stretched out. Let's give it a little bit of extra something. What I do is I double click on the layer area, and let's see what would happen if I gave it a drop shadow. Now that does look good, but I got to be honest, that drop shadow has a lot of density in its opacity. It's currently opacity at 100%. I'm going to drop it down to about 75 to soften it up. I'm also going to change the angle of it just a bit, and I'm going to just look around, check double, no, don't want it too fuzzy, and I don't want it too hard edge. Now that's something that's pretty good. When you're happy with it at 75% opacity, good distance, spread, and size for the drop shadow, I'm going to go ahead and hit Okay. And finally, I think I should jazz up the blue. Let's try giving it a little bit of bevel and emboss. Bevel and emboss, if you click and open it, you can change the depth, you can change the softness and the hardness and the size. I don't want to make it too big of a size, and I don't want to have it be too hard edge, but I would like it to kind of match in terms of the overall quality that's going with the drop shadow. I think this is looking pretty good. My opacity is at 50%. I'm going to have to make a judgment about the opacity in terms of should it match the font, which is currently at 75, and this opacity on the bevel and emboss, which is at 50. For now, I'm going to let it go. I think that this was a very successful first exploration of fonts. Remember, you can have different fonts, different spacing, and uppercase and lowercase letters depending on what it is that you're after. That's going to do it. Thanks for checking out Bentley Tech EDU. Have a great day.